Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and our producer, Lindsay, and we are streaming live from the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy Studio today. And today, again, which I think he holds a record now for being on our podcast the most, we welcome a very special person, Dr. Shawn Needham. And as you can tell by looking on video, he is obviously my twin brother, although I have been told I'm better looking.
I've been told the same too. So.
I'm sure both of you have.
And I'm definitely smarter. I've been told that a lot. Yeah. So anyway, Shane, I welcome you back to our show. Today we're going to be talking about protein. Shane being a bodybuilder and powerlifter, he knows all about protein and just diets in general. We've discussed it a lot on this podcast. So how much protein do we need? Can you get too much? Can too much cause side effects? Does it make you gain weight if you eat too much protein? We're going to find those things out today. What's the difference of supplementing with protein and eating real food for protein? All those questions will be answered today. So stay till the very end because you don't want to miss out. We're going to talk about a lot of good things about protein, everything protein. And if you have questions, please, about protein. I know this is a very, very popular topic when it comes to paleo diets, keto diets, any diet. We talk about protein and quality protein. So if you have questions, please put them in the comments and we will try to get to your questions. Go ahead, and we are streaming live on Facebook. So go ahead and put them in the Facebook comments. Or if you want to call in, you want to chat with us, that would be super. 509-537-0411. We'd appreciate the call. So Shane, without any further ado, welcome back to our podcast.
Hey, thanks. It's a pleasure. And thanks as always for inviting me on your podcast. And I do love the topic today about protein and how much can we eat? When can we eat it? All those kind of things. And should we get it from real food? I don't know what to expect from the questions, but I certainly hope that I can help and inspire and educate some people along the way.
Okay. So let's just start with the basics. All right. So on average, for the average person, how much protein do they need?
So in theory, now this is before you freak out and do this calculation, it's actually pretty easy to do if you eat, let's see, what would I say, nutrient dense foods. Okay. And nutrient dense foods are meats and eggs, for example, any type of meat. And red meat is not bad. Red meat does not cause cancer, does not cause heart attacks, does not cause plaque and high cholesterol. It doesn't. It doesn't cause any of that. Okay. There's lots of studies that have debunked those theories from the 60s many, many times over. And I eat a lot of that. I even eat red meat. My CAC score, my anti-inflammatory scores are very, very low. So, what's your specific question so I can actually get a specific answer is how much should each individual eat? Is that what you're saying? Protein,
right? Like grams per kilogram.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So in theory, even for the standard person, this is actually, it's difficult to do if you're not used to doing this. Okay. Because most of you are used to opening up a bag of chips and Doritos and then getting your wine and you drink like this. And then you dip your hands in some Doritos and that's how you get your calories for the day, which are just junk calories, by the way. And who couldn't eat a whole bag of Doritos? I mean,
I can.
Anybody can. They're super high palatable. You should be getting 1 gram per 1 pound of lean body weight that you have. So let's just say that with 0 fat on you, that is not possible. So let's just take a 200-pound person, a 200-pound male that has, let's just say, 10% body fat. That means they have 20 pounds of fat. Okay. So their lean body mass is going to be 180 pounds. That means with 0 body fat, they'll weigh 180 pounds. They should be getting 180 grams of protein a day. That's what they should be getting. And so that's what you should be getting. Now, that's even for a typical individual. You know, it's for a typical individual that's not looking to win a bodybuilding contest or anything like that. Now, it does one of many things. It holds your lean body mass. I just had a podcast on this with Dr. Sam this morning about eating the right foods and increasing or improving your hormone levels and whatnot. It improves your lean body mass. Obviously, muscle is made out of amino acids or proteins, and so is meat. Meat is protein and some fat, and that's it. Meat has 0 carbohydrates in it in general. And so It improves your lean body mass. So it's going to improve your energy. It's going to improve your lean body mass. It's going to improve your metabolic output. In other words, just by resting, you will actually burn more calories. And one of the things that's really good about focusing on getting that 1 gram per pound of body weight is if you focus on that protein first, which you should be doing. I'm not saying you shouldn't focus on fats. I'm not saying you should go zero carbohydrate either. That might be another topic. But it make sure that you get nutrient dense foods in your body, and it will take intentional effort to do that. So you're going to be focusing on getting that protein every single day. So in other words, your diet is going to revolve around meat and eggs, and that's a good thing.
Janet, do you have questions for Shane?
So it comes back to consumers being naive about what proteins are, and Shane spelled that out a little bit, but I think let's put in there what a bad protein might be, because I think right now we go to the store and there's all these protein drinks, there's all these protein products. Like if I buy a protein bar, I mean, what is your take on those items?
Yeah. So on those items, you should be getting your protein from real food. Okay. 90% of my daily protein comes from real food. Now, when I go to the gym, obviously it's hard. I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't know anybody that does it, but it's possible to take liquid chicken to the gym. Okay. And then drink it. So I do actually use some, for example, essential amino acids at the gym, and even some egg protein. Whey protein for me is inflammatory. So I get whey protein from Gaspari Labs. There's a plug for them. Excellent protein, and it actually tastes pretty good too. And it mixes well. Most egg proteins don't. So, but get the majority of your protein from quality real food. And here's the reasons why. So it's more sustainable. There is actually some research out there that actually shows that when you chew your food, all different kinds of hormonal cascades happen, including the hormonal cascade that says, oh, I'm satiated. When you do these liquid diets, let's just be honest. We've heard about these liquid diets since the 1980s. How many of them are sustainable and the people keep the weight off? I don't know of any. You can't drink a liquid diet and it be sustainable. And I think the biggest reason is it's like you never feel full. You never feel satiated. You never feel satisfied. When you cut open a big old ribeye or a ground beef patty, or even a really, nice chicken breast, or even a halibut steak or something, oh, it's so satisfying. And so you should be chewing that food for sure. So get the real food as much as possible and as least processed as possible.
And I think that's one thing we have to remember is that, powdered protein, whey protein or egg protein or whatever, it really is a processed food. Yeah. A protein bar. Oh, great. It's got 20 grams of protein. You got to be careful because a lot of times it has a lot of carbs too. And not that carbs are bad. We've talked about that. That's a discussion for another podcast. But those are processed items. Those are processed foods. Whereas, like you say, a ribeye is not. Eggs are not. Chicken, things like that. That's real food. And there's so much more nutrients in the food than we even know about. We only know what we know and what we're looking for. We don't know. We don't know. And so there's things in real food that we don't know.
And what we can test for.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. There's some research out there to show that supplementing with collagen or bone or some type of a bone broth can actually be, I've never found one that tastes very good. It just usually doesn't. Can be beneficial. And I've read the research. Well, can't you just eat meat off the bone? I mean, my son, who was 14 at the time, he's like, but Dad, doesn't all meat come off the bone? Yeah, he's true. He's right. So I don't know if the research is there yet. And I think that's what we have to remember with, as we talk about through this whole podcast, is I am telling you big world level pragmatic solutions that work for me. Pragmatic. That means, I've tested this over decades of what I can eat, what I can't eat, what works for me, what doesn't work for me, what I know makes me feel well, what doesn't make me feel well, what makes me maintain lean body mass, when do I lose lean body mass, all these things. And so you're going to have to figure that out for yourself as well as an individual. And that's whenever we're talking about nutritional science, and we're going to probably get into some pseudoscience. Well, that's what really nutritional science is. Nutritional science is pseudoscience. And the reason is this is the variables change so quickly. Your gut biome changes every day. Your environmental factors change every day. And remember, we're not lab mice. So person X and person Y are so different. When you put them on the same high protein diets, they might behave totally, totally differently. And so any of this nutritional science, and we've learned that over the last decade, I would say, is don't be dogmatic. Don't tell for me, low carbohydrate works pretty well. I'm not zero carbs. Sometimes I am. I'm not right now, but I know the carbohydrates that I can eat and others that make me feel really awful. And so, but you can't be dogmatic. Even with a keto diet, it's like, oh, that's not keto. Well, it works for me. I mean, if you have lean body mass and you're meeting all your health goals and you're an overall healthy person, do what works for you. Don't be dogmatic, be pragmatic about it.
Well, that's true. And you got to find out what definitely works for you. And everybody's different depending on their activity levels. I mean, you and I are twins, but we eat a lot different because of our exercise routine is a lot different. So
our goals are different.
Right. Our goals are much different. In fact, I'm reading a keto book right now from Dr. Annette Bosworth called Keto Continuum. Plug for her. She's awesome. I've met her twice now. Janet got to meet her when we were in South Dakota. And it's interesting because you read in that book and, she says, basically, if you eat over 200 grams of carbs a day, you are just not a healthy person. Now, I am paraphrasing. That's not exactly what she said. I'm sure if you talk to her and you find out specific information, she would probably, you give her specific instances, she would probably, go into the details of that. But I routinely eat over 200 grams of carbs per day, every day. But I burn them up too. So, you got to find what works for you for sure.
And I'm sure a lot of that, if you think about probably the correlation there, I think in general, 200 grams of carbohydrates is a lot because most people are probably getting it from gummy bears and Doritos.
Right.
And so, and sure, there's lots of carbohydrates in there. There's lots of sugars. There's lots of grains. There's lots of, but if you're eating 200 grams of carbs of brown rice and sweet potatoes, that's probably not, those aren't really inflammatory foods. Whereas the rest of them can be and cause insulin spikes and blood sugar spikes and so on and so forth. So, but it's what are your goals and what are you trying to get out of it and what works for you to be at an ideal body weight?
So talking about keto, low fat high fat, low carb is keto basically, correct?
That's my understanding. Yeah. I mean, there's so many pseudo ketos and pseudo paleo now.
Right.
And I don't stick with a paleo diet. I don't stick with a carnivore diet. I don't stick with a keto diet. I stick with the Shawn Needham diet and it works for me.
Now, so can we make protein from other sources, carbohydrates and fat?
No, you cannot. And you have to have some essential amino acids. I don't remember. I think there's 20 total. And I don't remember how many are essential. I should know these things, but I don't because I can always look it up. But you can't make that. You can't make fat and you can't make essential fatty acids. You can't make essential proteins. You're going to have to get those from your diet.
Essential. You can make some of them, right? But you can't make the essential ones.
Correct.
You gotta get them from diet.
And I think about, am I right? Is it 8 or 9 of them out of the 19 or 20 are essential? And I mean, I actually just saw this the other day of how they define essential and not essential. That's an interesting topic as well. It's very interesting on how they qualify essential versus non-essential. Just like, is Pluto a planet or is it not a planet? Well, it depends on who you ask.
Right.
Well, so let's recap.
Lindsay, will you look that up? How many amino acids there are and how many are essential, please?
Yeah, let's recap this a little bit because I think for the general person listening, so we can convert all food groups into sugar. We can't convert carbohydrates and fat into protein. And that's, I think, the main point that we're trying to impress upon people is that you need to ingest them. You need to consume them in order for that process to happen. But you can eat fats, you can eat protein, and they do convert into sugar eventually.
Yeah. Your body can make glucose through
Correct.
gluconeogenesis. Absolutely. I think what's important is if you're going to focus on, well, you should focus on one macronutrient. We have 3 of them. We have carbohydrates, fats, we have proteins. You can eat all those. Those are all things that are going to use calories, that are going to cause us to have calorie input or energy for our body. We can get that through fat. We can get it through carbohydrate. We can get it through protein. Focus on the protein, because you basically can get all the others if you eat too much protein. And even eating lean proteins, if you eat enough of it, I'm thinking about primal people. I'm thinking about when I was in the Panamanian jungle, and these people, seriously, I had friends there. We had to canoe in this river. It was fascinating. They only spoke Spanish and some jungle jargon, and it was fascinating, but they lived off chicken and some plant. And obviously, and their chickens were very lean, by the way. They're out in the middle of the jungle.
Right.
And they survive just fine. So when some people say, oh, you've got to eat fatty meat, I don't think that's so either, but you do have to eat enough calories from your lean meat. And that can be difficult to do because it's so satiating. So anyway.
While we're on that topic, let's talk about that. So I know some people think that they just can't eat too much protein. Now there's a couple ways we can go down this road. But I think if they just eat all protein, even if it's from real food, that, it'll help them lose weight. Can you explain can you eat too much protein and gain weight?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's very difficult to do if you're eating the right ones. I really do. Even if you're eating ribeyes, they can be pretty fatty. But if you're for the general person, I'm just saying, try it. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be rare especially if you're used to the SAD diet, the standard American diet. You're used to not being that satiated with your food. So, if you think about, let's just say you ate a 3-pound ribeye a day. I think I just did the calculation. That's 1,200 calories. 3 pounds of ribeye. You have a pound for breakfast, a pound for lunch, and a pound for dinner. You're not going to be hungry, but you probably are in a caloric deficit. Well, depends on how active you are, I suppose. So, yeah. So I just, yes, you can eat too much, but I think in general, it's because people now, especially people that go down the keto road, I don't have anything wrong with keto, but I can tell you this: I don't add butter to my coffee. I don't add coconut oil to my coffee. I don't eat keto bombs, with lots of fat. I don't add fat to my food. I get my fats from the food. So I don't really add extra. And when you start doing that, obviously you're going to add extra calories. So when you start adding extra calories, especially fat, when there's 9 calories per gram from fat instead of 4 calories per gram per protein, it's actually easy to get extra calories. So I just think it's very difficult if you're eating real food and not adding anything to it and eating real protein to eat too much and gain weight. Possible? Yes. Difficult? I think so.
Well, I think the rabbit hole is the powders and the bars that people think that and I'm not saying it's wrong for some instances, but I think the misnomer or the mistake people make is if you are consuming most of your proteins through a bar or a shake, I think that's where you can end up in caloric problems real fast.
Yeah, it's easy to eat, and they make those bars taste good for a reason. They're hyper. Most protein. I'm not saying I don't have it, and depending on where my goals are at for the year, like I'm not eating any of those protein bars right now. But if I'm on the road and it's kind of off season, it just depends on what lean body mass I want. I'll grab one at a convenience store because it's better than no protein. But right now, I cook all my real food and just take it with me around everywhere I go, or have 0 sugar beef jerky or something like that with 0 preservatives. And so, but yeah, those bars taste good. You look at them. They spike them with proteins, usually soy proteins. Those are estrogenic, but those aren't actually good either. Sometimes they do it with whey, but you look at it, it's not much difference. It's a Snickers bar on steroids.
It really is. I mean, when you look at it, a lot of times it really is. Yeah, correct. And honestly, so just a little tip, if you're really wanting some protein and some, and you just need something really quick, you could save a lot of money. Instead of buying one of those $4 bars, buy a salted nut roll. I mean, because it's about the same thing.
It probably is. Yeah.
I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit because it's true that, some of them do have less carbs than, some of the candy bars, but you got to be careful too. Cause like you say, they taste good. So they're easy to overeat.
The problem with peanuts are they're just usually inflammatory as well. And I don't know historically if that's how they're processed or what. That's a whole different topic.
That's a whole other topic. I think it's part of our immune system because we're not, we don't have as healthy a gut and immune system as we used to. Because look at when we were kids, how many people are allergic to peanuts?
0, but a lot are now.
Right. And now a lot are. So, you got to kind of wonder, probably again, it's our standard American diet, that's affecting our immune system. So, okay, we got that cleared up. So, and about drinking your calories, I think, like Janet says, I know it's so easy. People say, well, I have a smoothie a day. I'm not losing weight. But I have a healthy smoothie. Well, what do you put in your smoothie? Well, I put a scoop of chia seeds, and they're healthy. I put a scoop of whey protein. I put some bananas. I put some blueberries, and I'm like, in no time, and I put some yogurt, and in no time, you got 600 calories in a smoothie.
Oh,
and I don't know about you.
1,100.
Oh, you can easily make a smoothie 1,100 calories. And the only time, in my opinion, you should supplement like that is if you are really in a deficit and you need to recover. And so that's what you do, because you can really, really overdo it when it comes to drinking your calories. I know somebody, I've got a good friend that does it. He does it every day and it works for him. It wouldn't work for me. I tell him, it's like, dude, if I don't chew my food, there's no way I could be satisfied.
Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Okay, so let's get to the topic of proteins and kidney function. What do we hear about proteins? Too much protein can affect your kidneys and make your kidneys go bad. Will you expand on that?
Yeah. I'm going to go by what the data I know, and speaking from personal experience as well, and knowing that I'm going to try to use my words lightly here, but I'm not really good at not being polarizing. So most of the kidney function tests are based upon creatinine levels. Okay. BUN, GFR, look them up. BUN, GFR, and creatinine. Those are the main kidney function tests. Okay. Here's the deal. If you're eating a lot of protein, and remember what normal is, I talked about this on my podcast this morning with Dr. Sam. Normal is what they have all these thousands, hundreds of thousands of numbers of people that go into the clinic, and now they normalize these numbers. They call them numbers. They call them normal. Remember, those numbers that are normal are usually sick people, because those are the people that go into the clinic. I don't go into the clinic very often at all. And so they're all based on creatinine. Creatinine is actually a byproduct, or let's call it a metabolite, or a breakdown product of creatine. Creatine you obtain directly from eating a meat product, chicken, especially beef. It's in all proteins. It's in protein. And so when you eat a lot of creatine, and then, for example, some athletes, not just bodybuilders, supplement with creatine, then you break it down into creatinine. Well, now you have increased creatinine levels. And so all of a sudden your normal doctor might freak out, even though you walk in there and you have 8% body fat. But I don't think it's an issue. It's certainly something you need to talk to your doctor about, and go look at other data out there there are other kidney function tests actually that are independent. Also, for those of you that are weightlifters, you break down your muscle mass and make creatinine as well. So the more muscle you have, the more creatinine you create. Okay. Because your muscle is constantly metabolizing and breaking down. Okay. And so, for example, I'll tell you some anecdotal evidence levels, not personally, but of friends that I have. They'll go in and they'll have I don't remember the number. I remember the number and I don't remember which one it was, but it's I think it's a creatinine level of 2. And a normal is, let's say, 1.2. Does that sound right, Shawn?
That sounds right. Yep.
Okay. They'll have a level of 2. And they're 5'6", 200 pounds, 6% body fat, bodybuilder. Okay. And all of a sudden their doctor freaks out and they're like, oh my gosh, you're going to die from kidney disease. So they're supplementing with creatine, and they also obviously are training a lot. They have a lot of muscle mass. So I've seen this with several people. For 4 weeks, they stop lifting. They stop eating high protein. They go half their protein, for example, and they stop supplementing creatine, and their numbers become normal and they don't feel any different. So did that really matter? If you don't have protein in your urine, it means you're processing all of that. Now, here's what I think has happened with thinking about kidney function. Again, there's so many things going on. I think, well, you tell me this, Shawn, what's the number one, I think I know this answer. What's the number one reason people lose their kidneys and have kidney disease?
Diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So here's what happens, in my opinion.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So I think what's happened in the past is they have these high numbers, okay? And it's probably because their kidneys are decreasing in function because they're spewing out glucose through their kidneys all the time and into their urine. And so that's obviously very, very hard on the kidneys. But they've normalized these numbers, and now what they're saying, instead of fixing something else, they're saying, oh, it's high protein that does it. And you still look at a lot of blogs and some of the data online, and they say high protein diets can be bad for your kidneys. I think that could be true if you have bad kidneys. But the number one reason you're going to have bad kidneys is because you're eating too many carbohydrates.
Right. Yeah, you're
Right.
not processing them well.
I don't. Again, you treat the patient, do it individually. Make sure that, the first question your doctor should, when you walk into his office and she or he looks at you and they see that you're overweight, that should be their first clue that you're not healthy. But if they look at you and you have an ideal body mass, you're exercising, you're eating well, you're peeing, if you can pee, your kidneys can work, you're pulling out the other side. I mean, in general, you're healthy, but we've gone away from that. We've gone around. Now you can chase numbers. You can go and it can ask your clinic for this and this number and this number and this number. And why do you think that is? Because most people aren't paying for it themselves. Well, I do pay for it. I do pay for myself. And that's how I like it, by the way. And I think everybody should have skin in the game. But it's like, I have to make a decision. Wait a minute. Is this really an abnormal test, or is this just my baseline? So I don't have an answer for what healthy kidneys are. And I don't have an answer for precision medicine and the clinical numbers with creatinine, BUN, and GFR of what healthy is. But I know baseline wise what normal is and what can affect that. So just know what can affect that.
Well, I think we kind of alluded to this a little bit when we talked about ketones and proteins, that carbohydrates and sugar cause so much inflammation throughout our entire body that, they're the culprit of the inflammation. And that includes the amount of fluids that somebody is putting on their body just because of that inflammation. So we're not only taxing it with not being able to eliminate, but we are putting more fluid and more weight and, the circulation. And so it's just one compound after the other. So I think it's that big cycle that happens when somebody has been in inflammation for years and decades. And, unfortunately, when we look at a number, we don't look at the whole person. We look at that particular number, which we've lost in our ability to treat patients if we're being subjective, because, like Shawn's body weight or your body weight, if we're looking at just BMI, is going to put you into the index of obese in some categories if you're just looking at the number. But when you look at
I'm morbidly obese.
Right. But my point is that that's really not logical. There's no logic to that at all, because you should really be looking at the inflammation of the particular person or their diet habits as to whether or not those kidney functions are appropriate or not.
And what you can do to actually really, believe it or not, it might be cheaper once you get your first clinical test, it's not really expensive to do that, but every penny adds up. But it's going to be a couple $100 at least if you're cash pay. It'll be thousands if you're not cash pay, So it's unfortunate. But if those numbers are concerning to you or your practitioner, you can actually get an ultrasounds on your kidneys. And I just found this out recently. You can get it for like $225 with a cash pay service. Now, again, if you're in the racket of hospitals or local organizations or something like that, then you're going to pay thousands. But if you really want to narrow down to your kidneys look right, you can get an ultrasound for like $225. Sometimes that can keep you knowing what your baseline of your BUN and your creatinine and your GFR are, and then you know your kidneys are healthy. Now you have a baseline. You have a baseline. And it's like, okay, I know everything's good. This is all normal to me.
That's a good point. Getting baselines on a lot of different labs is very important. So Lindsay did some quick research. Our producer did some quick research. 500 amino acids, 22 of them essential.
Okay. 22
And yeah, I kind of remember the number of 20. So that makes some sense. So let's talk about, are you prepared to talk about branched chain amino acids?
Sure.
Okay. Talk about branched chain amino acids since we're on the subject of protein.
Yeah, it's something I struggle with. I actually, during phases where I'm in a growth phase and I want to lean out and I want to maybe start prepping for a contest or something like that, I actually supplement with branched chain amino acids at the gym, and they taste good. I don't know if I really believe in them. And the reason is you can get all your branched chain amino acids from real food, or you can even get it from a protein drink. But branched chain amino acids are just the broken down level of a protein. So you have amino acids that, let's just say it's small, like my fist. That's an amino acid, and that's a building block of protein. Then I take another amino acid and I put it on there. Now we've got a protein. Okay. And then I have put another amino acid on top of that. We can have many more proteins. So branched chain amino acids, in theory, they're already broken down and digest for you. So in theory, you can get them into your muscles quicker. Does seconds versus minutes really matter if you have so much protein floating around your blood because you're already in an anabolic state? I don't know. It's like a multivitamin. Do I take a multivitamin? I do. Why? Because it's a cheap insurance policy. That's why.
Well, usually the instance where I would recommend branched chain amino acids, first of all, like we said, real food is the best way to get your protein. And you could supplement with whey protein or egg protein, and you're still going to get the same branched chain amino acids in that full spectrum protein powder or supplement. But you do get more calories. So if somebody is super calorically conscious they want to increase their protein, I would recommend, branched chain amino acids.
Very good point. Very good point.
Because it is a lot less calories than, I wouldn't say a lot less, but sometimes 100 calories or 200 calories of a scoop of protein powder for somebody that only needs 1,000 calories a day. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And I'm still thinking about the research on it and thinking about their essential and their branched chain amino acids. I get it. And I've seen some of the research on it, and believe me, it's a little bit hocus pocus whenever you start doing muscle studies and anabolic studies and nutritional studies. And so they say they help post recovery and so on and so forth. I'm trying to think of the whole picture and why they actually would, because you're going to have those anyway. I don't know. But again, it's like, well, if you get some vitamin C, but not enough, it could be a problem, right? So maybe the same thing with branched chain amino acids, but in general, you're going to get it from all your food. And you're right. Caloric, you're going to decrease your calories. Because I think I can get 20 grams of branched chain amino acids with 20 grams of protein, which, is it really protein? I don't think so. And do we need all those to grow? I think so. Even the essential and non-essential ones. So my point is it really doing anything? I don't know. Okay. But you can get that for like 20 grams of protein or amino acids for like 20 calories. So it can be a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Here again, eat real food.
Totally.
And and you'll get most all the nutrients you need. And supplements are meant just for that. When I talk to people about supplementation, there's a reason they're called vitamin supplements or mineral supplements or protein supplements. They're meant to supplement an already good diet. Yep. They're not meant to live day to day on. There are a lot of things that those supplements are missing that real food gives us.
Yeah.
So let's go back to collagen protein, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I do, that is one of the proteins I do supplement with. And for one thing is it's been shown to help with muscle recovery and joint recovery. And being an endurance athlete, that's something I care about, obviously. I think we all do. And the thing about it's not, from what I understand, the reason they taste so bad is because the collagen protein that is the important part of the collagen protein is actually comes from fish heads. So that's why good collagen protein tastes so bad, from what I've been told. Now, is that gospel? I don't know, but I've seen some studies, and there are some good studies on collagen. I don't know many people that are going to eat fish heads. So, but there's a lot of
probably thought they were like candy.
right. And, that's why there's a lot of talk right now about eating animals nose to tail.
Norwegians probably thought a fish head was a great thing to snack on and crunchy. Could you imagine?
Yeah, right. It had some texture.
I know it sounds gross to us, but that's probably what they ate.
Right. I
mean, why would you, in a primal environment, why would you fillet a fish and just save the fish or just the fillet? Why would you kill a turkey and just have the breast? You're going to eat everything.
Right.
Because you need every single piece of it. And so there's a lot of research. I interchanged I was taking collagen for a long time, and I think it helped with maybe some of my joint issues. I don't have a lot, by the way. It's like a twinging here or something like that, but people think it's normal when you're 50, because I'm 50, just like you are. Oh, I hurt every day I get out of bed. Well, I don't, and you shouldn't. I don't. No, just because you're 50 does not mean that you have to send all these memes on Facebook like, here's what I look like when I get out of bed, and you're shaped like your bed or your chair. No, that is utterly ridiculous. 50 is not old. 60 is not old. 70 is not old. I mean, none of these things are old. It's all in our mind. And we don't have to have chronic disease that actually, takes away our quality of life. So those things are not normal. Don't normalize unhealthiness. And that's what we've done in our country.
Yeah, for sure. So as we wind up this podcast, what's the last thing you want our listeners and viewers to know about protein?
Well, it should be your number one thing that you think about for eating and consuming is getting your protein first. Everything else is secondary. I don't care if you're doing paleo. I don't care if you're an endurance athlete. I don't care if you're doing keto or carnivore. The number one thing that I believe that I found over the last 20 years that you should really be paying attention to, it's going to make you feel the best and look the best and be most optimal, is make sure you get your protein first. And that's what you should be thinking about. Everything else is secondary or tertiary.
Awesome. So, Shane, if anybody has some questions, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can certainly go to my website at drsneedham.com. You can find my email there. You can find some other information about my podcast and so on and so forth there. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on all podcast platforms, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. Yeah, there's my website right there. And so go find me there or on any of those and connect with me. I love doing this, and I love helping people. Okay. And I want to inspire and make sure that people are educated and healthy for the future of all mankind. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, I was going to ask that question. What inspires you? What drives you? And you just answered that question. So that's your passion, I guess.
Yeah, I really, really do. I want to inspire as many people a day that I can, and hopefully just help from my story, and hopefully guide them and coach them and learn from them as well.
All right. On another topic, switching gears. So I heard you're writing a book.
I am writing. Actually, I'm writing two books.
Tell us about your book.
Well, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag.
Oh, I just did.
No, that's good. I've already talked about, I've had some teasers out there, and I'm working on a book cover right now. But I'm writing it right now. It's a slow process, but I'm going to have two books. One of them is called, it's based on coaching, and it's it's something that I've coached, and I feel that I will always be a coach. I might not be called a coach in a formal sense anymore, as far as taking on that leadership role anymore. But I can tell you this, I coach my kids every day. And I don't mean I coach them in just, making them do things they don't want to do. But I think a father especially should be a good coach to their children, should be a leader, should be an example, should be somebody who sometimes talks to them about very difficult things, even if they don't like to hear it. And you know what? They might be mad at you or upset at you. Wah, wah. That's your job as a parent, okay?
We're
Is
not
to
their
be a parent.
friends.
You're not their friend. That is very unhealthy. You might be friendly to them, but so it's about coaching, and it's about the 4 pillars. It's called FACT, actually, and it's FACT, FACT. And it's those 4 things that when I was leading a team of wrestlers and coaching a club and coaching at the high school level, I just started watching about why this 4-year-old wrestler, this 5-year-old wrestler had a different experience than this 14-year-old wrestler. And how can we make sure we motivate both of them? So I studied teams, I studied books, I studied coaches, I studied Lombardi, I studied Wooden, I studied Gable, I studied Sanderson, I studied all these great coaches, wrestling, basketball, football, all these people, and took a little bit of both of them. And now I'm writing a book about it. And it's going to be a really easy read that will actually work not only in coaching athletes, but also I'm a business owner. And I've grown a very large business, one of the largest bioanalytical CROs, private bioanalytical CROs in the world. And so it will work for business teams as well. And then I'm going to write another book as well. Some of it, you're going to be in a lot of this. It's just like, I've lived the American dream like you, Shawn. I am living the exact life that I wanted to live.
Absolutely, man. Amen.
I just am. And is that by design? Yeah.
Absolutely. We created it.
I realized that some of the things that you and I wanted to do when we were teenagers, and there's some traumas involved in that of things that we couldn't control when things happened when we were teenagers. So we said, screw this. We want to make a life for ourselves where we're going to have the ultimate amount of liberty. And how do you do that? You set yourself up financially to do that. And so, the whole 9 to 5 working, punching a time clock, it just wasn't going to work for me. I wanted to start my own thing. So it's going to talk, it's probably going to be, the title is going to be Never Be Outworked. I just let the cat out of the bag. And so Never Be Outworked. And it's going to talk about my journey all the way from as a teenager and as a child to being a father, to being an entrepreneur, to now owning one of the largest bioanalytical research labs in the actual world that's private. And it's a really, really cool story. And it's been an amazing story. And there's going to be, it's an edited but unabridged autobiography. I will go into details and some of the trials and tribulations, even recent, that will blow your mind.
I won't be surprised.
You've been through it. You've heard it.
Right.
You've heard the whole thing, and it will blow your mind. And I am super excited to get that word out there and just, again, to help other people.
So you got to let me write a chapter in there or something, or
absolutely, or the foreword or something.
Yeah.
You betcha. Yeah. I wish, as you know, you wrote your own book. I wish it was faster. I've got some other priorities right now, but I'm working on it slowly but surely.
Slow process.
It is a slow process, and it gets better every week. So yeah.
Enjoy the journey.
Oh, I am.
And by the way, when the book is published, you're not done. You're just getting started, as you know.
Oh, I know that. My second half of my life, I mean, I've got at least 50 years left. I'm 50 now. I hope to live to 100. And it's going to even be better than the first 50.
I agree, buddy.
It's not even close.
I met a very special person yesterday who let the cat out of the bag that is helping you with the book. So
yeah, she is. She absolutely is. Crystal, go Crystal. She's amazing. And we talk every single week, and it's really, really good. And it's gonna, some of the stories could probably be made into a Hollywood movie because they're so bizarre. And so stay tuned. It is going to be good. It's going to be a tell-all tale book that some people don't want published, but it's getting published.
Yeah, you've talked to me about it. So, and good for you. I know there's going to be some things from our childhood come up.
Yeah.
And, please reach out to me so I can fill in the details. Cause I think sometimes you and I forget about it. We got to talk to each other about what really happened.
Yeah. It's a good life. I live a very, very good life. I'm very blessed.
Awesome. I love it, Shane. So thank you for being on our podcast. As always, I'm sure we'll have you on again. Thank you listeners and viewers for tuning in. Tune in Thursday, talking about a disruptor in healthcare. We have a chiropractor, Dr. Brian Board, on, and he is going to talk about why the state of our healthcare system and why he chose chiropractic. So you don't want to miss out on that. We will be streaming live 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, as always, with our midweek podcast. Not as always, but this week for sure. So you don't want to miss out on that. And thank you for listening and watching Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you, Shane.
Thanks, Shawn. Thanks, Janet.